tall. Words are blades that never fall. Debate like warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. Through the noise we cut clean. Spirited minds sharp and keen. With a spark that lights the night. Join us in this epic fight. Welcome to the sports in our arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance. In this arena there's no chance to escape the vibrant lore. Dive in deep and search for more. From heartfelt talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome to the sports in our arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. In the ring we stand tall. Words of blades that never fall. Debate the warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. In the ring we stand tall. Words of blades that never fall. Debate like warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. Through the noise we cut clean. Spirited mind sharp and keen. With a spark that lights the night. Join us in this epic fight. Welcome to the Spartan Arena, where minds clash and thoughts clean. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance. In this arena, there's no chance to escape the fight by law. Dive in deep and search for more. From heartfelt talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome to the Spartan Arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance. In this arena, there's no chance to escape the fight by law. Dive in deep and search for more.
What is going on, everybody? We're back at it. Another stream, another live. You know where you're at. You're at Spartan NC Network. I am your host, the Spartan, aka Peter. How is everybody doing tonight? Tonight, we're going to be talking about cancel culture versus accountability. Which one is justice? Which one is more fair? But I can't do this by myself. I gotta bring my boy in here. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our president. Mr. President, how you doing tonight?
I'm a little tired, but you know, getting ready. I got a exam tomorrow, so I got to sort of fast a little bit and get myself ready for tomorrow. Everything is good, but yeah.
Does,
So
does,
I'm wearing the thicker glasses today to hide my tired eyes. So hopefully it won't be too.
does a manual checkup, I assume?
Yeah, it's just just routine maintenance stuff. So
All right. As long as you're good, that's what matters, my man.
yeah, I'm fine.
So, Paul, you said in the past you're a fan of cancel culture, correct?
Generally speaking, yes.
Can
Like
you
anything else, I mean, you can have abuses, it can go too far, whatnot, but generally, at least the way I define it, I don't per se have a problem with it. Um, and I find it sometimes hypocritical when businesses do.
Mhm. All right, before we move on, let's get this guy in here. Let's get our boy Anton here. I think both of you guys are gonna get kicked out of that.
What's going on, fellas?
What's good,
I'm
sir?
doing all right. What's good, Paul?
Oh, it's all
Uh,
good.
All right, now it looks a little bit weird. I'm actually at work right now, but I
Uh,
figured I'll try to get on real quick before I have to go back. So I'm looking at the replay right now on my tablet.
All right,
So
because you
I'm,
don't have a minimum time. Cancel culture versus accountability. What is your take on that, my man?
I'm a fan of accountability because I feel we all have to be, there are rules and there's standards that we have to uphold and maintain. And if we do anything that goes against it, we should be punished. We should be held accountable. The thing about cancel culture is it's almost as if you want to hold them accountable, but then you take it to a whole new level. Where do you stop? Where's the end? You know what I mean? Because it feels like some people just want to keep taking it to another level once they hold someone accountable. They don't want to keep going and going and going. It's almost like as if you don't want to give that person a chance to try to redeem themselves or try to understand that they made a mistake and they're ready to learn from what they did wrong. And that's the real, how can I put it? That's the real scary part about cancel culture. It's almost like as if you do anything wrong, you say something wrong, you look at something wrong, and people are going to look for any reason to justify railroading you, or
Mhm.
even an accusation that could be false, and they're ready to railroad you and make things a lot more difficult than it has to be.
I agree. What do you think, Paul?
Now, I mean, if you want to define that on those terms, if you want to say that cancel culture is accountability taken to an extreme, I can understand that. I can empathize with that train of thought. That is there or should there be an opportunity for someone if you've made a mistake not to be, to have, certainly what you've been working for all this time totally out. Um, should there be a path of redemption? Like I talked about last week about forgiveness, right? So the idea is like, yeah, should there be a path? Yeah. But a lot of times people get dug in and they, with certain people, it's like, an apology. We have a president who's like, was asked, "Have you ever apologized for anything?" He said no because he just doesn't believe that. His I guess his mentor from back in the day, I forget the lawyer's name, but told him that you never apologize. That that's a sign of weakness. And for a lot of people, you find themselves, you dug yourself a hole or into a hole, but the problem is you keep digging. And again, sometimes it's never about what happened. It's about the lies. It's about the deflection. It's about the kicking it down the road. That gets people really. I mean, you see this with athletes. I mean, athletes pop for steroids or something like that or whatever. And they'll get up there. Had this one guy got before the Senate said, "I've never done steroids," and it came out, yeah, you did.
Rafael Palmeiro.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I mean, you're making it. I think people don't give the public enough credit to say, yeah, I mean, you mess up and make a mistake or whatever, you come with a sincere apology. I think more times than not, people will give you a second chance. But you think I got to keep the lie going, I got to keep the defenses going until you're in a corner, and then you want to come with the apology tour or whatever, or say something, some PR statement says, yes, I could have did things differently or whatever, when you've been dragging it out the whole time. And so then when you do apologize, the apology doesn't feel sincere. It's like you're not sorry, you got caught. And like what I'm always even trying to tell my girls and my wife, everything, own your stuff. Or own your ish. Just own it. If you make a mistake, own it. But people said, nah, well, see, what happened was, see, that's not really what it was. And you just drag it on and on and on. And people are like, I'm done with you. So again, I'm big on forgiveness, but I'm just as big on humility. And if a person can't humble themselves, that's definitely
that's an indicator right there.
Then I'll cancel you then. Bye, Felicia. I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, Paul, I wanted to piggyback what you were saying. And the problem with the current individual in office, he doesn't realize how sometimes admitting defeat could win you more respect.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still complaining about 2020. And he doesn't realize all he had to say was this. The people have spoken. It didn't work in our direction. That's okay. But I will be back here in 4 years. And he doesn't realize how saying something that small and simple would win him more respect than digging his heels in and still complaining about what happened in 2020.
And that's a good example because I don't want to turn this into a politics conversation, but when he lost, he said, let's march down to the Capitol. And people believed him. That was his words. If you're a hardcore supporter, and there are a lot of people that they believe his words are like gospel, he was wrong what he said. He said, listen, my bad, I misspoke. And that's fine. I'm going to use another example, another athlete. Do you guys remember Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer?
Michael Phelps. Yeah.
Michael Phelps.
I believe he got caught smoking weed, or was it steroids? I don't remember which one it was.
I think it was a bomb pipe. Yeah.
He was smoking weed.
Yeah.
It was smoking weed.
Except saying, listen, guys, I smoke, socially a little bit to relax me. It's nothing wrong with that. And listen, I support that. If you're doing a little socially, if you're addicted to it, I don't support that. Excuse me, that. But except him coming up like, listen, I smoke. My bad, guys. I'm human into the day. I think people were taking it more, humbly. You know what I'm saying? Like Paul said, if you're a humble person,
right.
Like wrestlers again, a lot of them like Hogan and like, oh, I did the steroids. Then his whole Vince thing came out. He's like on oath. He goes, yeah, he told me the steroids. I use steroids. Then why couldn't he just be honest, dude? And like, listen, I use steroids, but I don't recommend them. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing I do respect about bodybuilders from Miss Olympia contest. And me and Paul met a couple of them personally, and I met a few of them over the years. And they always tell me, I use steroids. I'm not ashamed to say that. It's because what I do, I have to go to the next level. And you cannot do that on a natural diet. Be natty.
Mm.
It's fair to say that. And
it's
awesome. One athlete I remember that came out, she acknowledged it, but I wish she would have said it sooner. Marion Jones. when she came out and acknowledged that she was using, they stripped her of her records, they stripped her of her medals. If she would have been honest from the beginning, I think she tried to deny it, and then eventually she came out public and acknowledged it. And if she would have just acknowledged it from the beginning, yes, she's going to have her medals taken away. Yes, she's going to have her records taken off the books and everything else, and what other disciplines that she got from the IAAF. But people would have respected her more if she would have just came out and said, yes, I did it, and this is the reason why I did it. I think another person is Lance Armstrong. Look how long it took him to finally acknowledge what he did, that he was doping after winning 7 consecutive Tour de France titles. And the real tough part about that, I would say, is because of his story. He was fighting cancer, coining the term live strong, starting the Cancer Foundation. And it sucks that a lot of people got caught up in it. And I'll be honest, I was one of those people that was happy that he was, taking his struggle, his challenges, and motivating people to keep fighting.
And people understand, and I think you're going to back me up on this, Anton, is a lot of people who are fighting cancer do use steroids on a daily basis because they
Right.
need help immune system boost or whatever they need it for. Is a
Right.
normal prescription they're being given to fight something off, and that is
Right.
cancer. There's nothing wrong with that.
But the real messed up thing was he was still doping after he was recovering and he was declared cancer free. You heard all these accusations coming out of him doping and so on and so forth, and he kept fighting it and fighting it and fighting it, and then eventually he acknowledged it. The 7 titles were stripped. His titles were stripped. He shut down his foundation. He had money go to other organizations that, took care, that did cancer funding and research as well and everything else. And it's real sad that he couldn't just been honest from the door, because his words did motivate a lot of people who fought. And you have some people who did make it because they listened to what he was saying. They listened to his message.
And I want to use another example because Brax kind of put the idea in my head. You have a lot of these influencers, TV stars coming out, and people are start canceling them because they say the most unfeminine word, and you know what word I'm starting with is the N word, and like, okay, you said it. I don't approve of it, but I'd be saying, like, be honest. Listen, I was pissed. I got caught off guard. Whatever the reason is, you're human. I get it. Or I said it out of context. I'm having a conversation with somebody, and I said it because of a history or something. Okay, I can get behind that. You said it out of context. Okay, you said it because you were having a conversation with somebody with the opposite race or whatever, however you want to break it down. Okay, yeah, and like you can, you 2 people, me and Paul, for example, me and you, or whoever, or 3 of us can have a conversation, and one of us use the N word, including myself. Obviously, I don't use it, but let's say if I
Right.
did, it was out of not context, I'm calling you the N word. Like, hey, back in the day, you were called that not because you were black, because that's how you were addressed it. And like, Greeks were called rats at one point. You know what I'm saying? And like, that is not, you're not calling me a rat specifically. You're calling me
Right.
only the history of us.
But I think, most people understand that, and I think that, to me, that kind of goes, again, it's not giving the public enough credit. Most black people know when you're using the N word derogatory or you're using it in reference to something else. Most of us can understand that. I remember, like, one of my favorite movies, Tom Cruise movies, is All the Right Moves.
Oh, wow.
Football Town, 1981, high school football or whatever. And the coach, who was ironically Craig T. Nelson, who ironically starred in a TV series called Coach that ran on for several years, he was the coach of that team. and he made this impassioned speech in the movie that they were playing this umpike team, which was this real bougie, high-end school, and they've never beaten them. But this town that they're from is made up of black people and Italian people and Polish people. And in his speech, he said he made basically a reference saying, you know why they didn't give us all the tickets to the game? You know what they call us? We're the Italian slur, the Polish slur, and the black slur. He said, that's what you are, and that's what I am, but we're going to do this together. I would have ran through a wall for that guy. Because he was making it, because the point he was making was, you see how these uppity people look down on us? Because there was a time outsiders. When the Polish were the black people, the Italians were the black people. Everybody was black or marginalized at some point when they came as immigrants to this country, until the larger society kind of adapted them in. It's like, oh, I guess I don't have to stay black anymore. So he went there. Unfortunately, me and Anton, we can't hide what we look like. So we stayed black pretty much. But the point is, all of us, everybody's looking down on us, but we together, and that was his point, together, this very diverse team, we're going to go in there and we're going to win this game. Now, unfortunately, they didn't win the game. That was part of the movie and everything. But the point was, we can understand nuance. We can understand context. And now you do have some people who try to use that to say, oh, they said the N-word and whatnot. But again, a lot of us could be like, nah, bro, that's we see where you're trying to take a cheap shot at somebody when somebody was trying to make a point. Now, the thing is, though, a lot of times, even in those situations, I've seen people retreat from defending what they were trying to say. It's like, oh, I really didn't mean it. Well, you did mean it. But again, stand on the context what you were making it. If that was taped, if that speech was taped and it got out and people said, oh, he said these things about Italian and black people and whatnot, every member of that team would have stood up for him. It's like, no, he wasn't downing us. It was in reference to how outsiders look at us.
They were always on the outside. They were outsiders. They were foreigners. They were
low end. They were low class, low working steel mill working people or whatever. Where the umpike team, again, they were the bougie rich kids or whatever, and had all the benefits, had the best facilities and everything. We're just this little old school made up of these tough guys, these little tough kids or whatever. But we can do this. And so again, when you have that kind of nuance, you can stand on that, and then people stand behind you.
I surely respect that.
So again, I think that whole that whole thing, I think people mischaracterize a lot of times when it comes to as if we're not intelligent enough to understand when we're being insulted or not, or when somebody's trying to be disparaging or not, or again, as I said, to start out with, how somebody's generally sorry for something or something that you just got caught in, and it because when they read the PR, it's not their genuine words because they don't talk like that. They're reading a statement that was made for somebody from somebody. It's not sincere. So again, give people the opportunity to judge for themselves whether or not, you're legit or not. But some people, they just don't know how to do that, or they're just afraid to do that. And I think again, when you're in a hole, stop digging.
Exactly.
And people get so dug in, and it's like, well, I guess the only thing you can do at this point is cancel.
And I remember, it's ironic that these incidents that we're talking about involve sports. And here's a perfect example. And this happened most recently. It was involving the driver from NASCAR, Kyle Larson. And this happened during the pandemic, where he was e-racing. He was driving online and everything else. And he said something he wasn't supposed to be said, and it was found out. Now, Larson is of mixed heritage. He's white on his father's side. He's Japanese on his mother's side. And I think he had family that were in the internment camps during World War II.
Oh, wow.
And the fact that he what he said was wrong. He admitted what he did was wrong. I know there were some people that gave him a hard time. The one person I remember that said something to him was Bubba Wallace, the only black driver in NASCAR. Both of them came through the same program to get involved in auto racing. Now, I remember he didn't really go into detail on what was said, but I know those two still stay in touch with each other. And I'm guessing he probably said something to him. Kyle realized it, acknowledged it, and he's been trying to make up for it ever since. Another incident, and yeah, Paul, you already know I'm a hockey fan. And it was an incident that happened between Chris Simon, who at the time I think he was playing for the Colorado Avalanche, and Mike Greer, and I think he was playing for the Washington Capitals. Mm-hmm. Now, Simon is indigenous. He's of the Ojibwa Nation in Canada. Greer is Black American. He's one of the few blacks playing in the league, and he was the first Black
Americans playing in the league because most of the Black players seem to be Black Canadians.
Yeah, he was one of the few Black Americans in the league, and he was the first Black to play his amateur hockey in the U.S. He never played junior hockey. He played high school hockey. He played with one of those boarding schools. He played college hockey. Then he made it to the NHL. And there was a situation that happened where Simon said something to Greer, I think after the game, and emotions, got tense. Simon realized what he said. He was wrong. He realized he was wrong what he did, and he felt like crap for saying it. Him and Greer, they found a way to hash it out. And when people ask Greer what went on, he says, "We settled it." End of story. And I think the reason why Greer never made more out of it than what it was is because he knows Native Americans and Canadian Indians, the indigenous people, are called that term just as much as everybody else. And these are the people that have been here longer than any of us on this continent. So Greer understood Simon's frustration. And Greer, I believe, also knew he had to face some stuff as well. And that's why I think he just said, "We settled it. It's over." And even still to this day, Simon sadly passed away some time back. Greer is now the GM of the San Jose Sharks. Anytime people try to bring it up, he just said, "We talked about it. We settled it. That's it. It was handled."
Well, a good example to what we're talking about that was a little confidential story. Do you guys remember the movie called Green Book?
Yes.
Yeah. That was very confidential because you had a white dude driving a black musician. Great musician. I can't take that away from him. And it was weird. And people didn't want to let me eat and all that stuff. Like the guy stood up for him. And that's why they were trying to say, "You know what? We don't need your play here." I'm like, "You're done. You're canceling the show." And that was wrong for them to do that. That is a great example. Except take accountability. Listen, we are wrong for saying that. But I know it was a different time also.
Right. Well, I know the movie was a little bit different from the book.
I never read the book, to be honest with you, Paul.
Yeah, it wasn't so much a book in a fiction. There was an actual Green Book. See, what happened was, again, when you had a lot of, after slavery, you had a lot of black people who moved north. So, again, Michigan, Chicago, New York, or whatnot, but they still had family in the South. And so what would happen is when you would make these trips down to the South, you got like the racism sort of full bore. So like in the movie where, again, a guy couldn't go to certain places, stay at certain places, eat at certain restaurants, what they made was a Green Book, and that was basically a black directory of places where you could stay. So you would stay out of trouble or running into a place where you weren't going to be welcome or worse. What some people would do back then. So it was a like a yellow pages, if you will, or green pages for black people traveling south. And they broke down all the places, gas stations, hotels, restaurants, accommodations, any place where black people or black business would be welcomed. And that's an actual book. And when I went to the African American Museum, they actually had a copy of it there. So I saw it. So Green Book kind of the movie leverages on some of that, but really that they went into another direction with the with the
Yeah.
film. It's it was an actual publication to help people so you won't get in trouble.
There's some people that still have. There's some families that still have their version of Green Books.
Mhm.
That's
I'm
literally basically.
And I do apologize if I'm out of line, and I really do apologize. You guys, I love you guys to death. So the South was mostly racist, from my understanding, correct?
Oh yeah.
Well, at least it was more in front of you. Now, some people argue the North was just as racist. They just hit it better. But yeah, I mean,
But my question
certainly
is,
segregation, Jim Crow, absolutely was the South. Yeah.
when did this? Because I have friends who live in Texas, and like BMD, for example, who live down there, and I hear it's still pretty racist down that area, side a little bit. They're not a fan of some people down there. So when do you think this actually finally ended in reality? Not what the history book says, in reality, when it really ended.
What do you mean ended? And what ended?
Like the whole races down there in South.
I don't think it
It
has.
still goes. They never have.
I agree.
What we just saw, and again, not to get political again,
Obviously,
but we just saw with the Supreme Court, what they've done is allow
Mhm.
gerrymandering, which basically what you're doing is you're changing how congressional districts are drawn to disenfranchise black voters. In the South, you do have most black people still live in the South. I think 60% of black Americans still live in the South, I think.
Yeah, and the
And
largest
there are
and the one
centers
state
or
that.
hubs where there's representation in Congress. So like Memphis, for example, is mostly a black town. I mean, black people have a lot of influence and it's a seat of political power for black people in the South. With these new maps being redrawn, they're basically going to lump in Republican red voters with a lot of the black voters. So again, when it comes to voting for a district, the Republicans are going to have a lot more say in that election, and more than likely, you're going to have less representation for black people because your numbers are going to be mixed in with white Republican voters. So the whole idea of what they call gerrymandering is still taking place to disenfranchise black and brown voters. So in a way, it still hasn't ended. And keep in mind, when you talk about things like the Confederacy, like all those Confederate statues that were taken away a few years ago, those statues were made in the 1920s, 60 years plus after the Civil War was over. So it wasn't like, these people were, talking about, oh, we're honoring our past or whatnot. Nah, you're talking 60 years before any of those statues went up. And all the controversy with the Confederate flags and things came later. Again, all that stuff is still it is still present. I was just watching on people talking about like what happened with NASCAR. Like NASCAR used to be the number 2 sport in America in the 90s. Number 2 in terms of watch hours and whatnot. It was big on ESPN. But you mentioned earlier, Anton, with Bubba Wallace. Now, when that story came out about the noose in the one of the racing stables or whatever, and then NASCAR decided to we're going to ban Confederate flags from NASCAR events. Like you would go to a NASCAR race, and especially if it's in the South, and you would have all these guys with their Confederate flags, which to a black person, that would be like, oh, okay, I guess you don't want me here. But when they said no more Confederate flags, a lot of that crowd bounced. And so NASCAR is kind of in the dip right now because for a lot of these viewers, they said, okay, well, NASCAR got woke, and therefore we're leaving the event. So this was, again, 2020s. This is during the pandemic.
Mhm.
So a lot of things to a point, the Civil War never ended. And certainly what you're going to see in the next few years, especially in the 2028, because the recent Supreme Court decision or the state court decision isn't going to affect necessarily the 2026 elections. It's really going to come in 2028. And what's going to happen congressionally, the South is going to get redder, and the northern states, California, New York, and Maryland, all those are going to get bluer. So you're going to have that divide again, the northern states versus the South. And so to a degree, things have not gotten better. It's just they're playing the game just a little bit differently.
Yeah,
In other words,
What's that?
yeah.
like almost like chess, almost in a way.
Yeah,
More than just it's more than
And I'll
just
be honest with
that.
you guys. And I'll be honest with you guys, as a friend, a brother. I hope I can call you guys that. I know I can. From bottom of my heart, I'm sorry you guys are going through that still. You shouldn't have to.
Hmm.
And it's bullshit in my eyes because you shouldn't have to go through that.
Right.
Even
But
No
I
one should.
yeah,
yeah.
sometimes me being Greek and like I can walk into stores like I'm not welcome there sometimes because I'm Greek, and that's kind of fucked up.
I can honestly tell you a situation that happened when I was in Europe, and this was my first time when I was in Paris. I was 13, and I remember getting to a situation, and I was referred to as La Sale Niger, dirty Negro.
Oh wow.
And the thing is, because my family is not just because of my name, it's where my family's from. My parents are originally from Haiti, which was France's most prized colony. And then when Haiti decided enough was enough and gained its independence, we've been dealing with crap ever since. And the thing is, when you go to like, I remember my sister lived in Paris for 6 years, and I remember times when my parents would go to see her, and I remember the times my brother or me would go, we would see her. Even though we spoke French, we would talk in English. Because while some people with parents don't mind, they heard us speaking English. Oh, we're American. Oh, we're probably Canadian. No big deal. But the minute they heard us speaking French,
It's a
we're
wrap.
probably from Algeria. Yeah, we're from Senegal. We're from Benin. We're from Cameroon. We're from Cote d'Ivoire. We're treated like crap. I remember times showing my passport to to the people, to the authorities, and they look at it. I got a full French name with an American passport, so they're automatically assuming I must have came from somewhere in Western Africa and then moved to the States. And I told them no, I'm an American, and they find it hard to believe. Where were you born? Newark, New Jersey.
Hmm.
Apologies, I didn't bring my birth certificate with me to verify that.
Right, you know what was the biggest problem? You got born in Newark.
Yeah.
But that was always the issue, was the fact that I have a full French name. So does my sister. Sabrina is a very common French name.
Mm.
And because we both have distinct last names, which is definitely French, we caught flack.
Yeah. And you were telling me,
Because,
Anton, your last name is actually an Americanized version of it, right?
yeah, the pronunciation of it is like my
Mhm.
brother, sister, me, you kind of somewhat anglicized the name. We use an American pronunciation of our last name. My parents
Yeah.
still use the French pronunciation
Mm.
and everything else. They still do. They've always
Mm.
done, and even some of my family members too.
Right.
But when we go to, like, if we've gone to France, we have those issues. And the thing is, it's not just France. Some parts of Europe, and Peter, you probably know this. If you're a person of color in Europe, people are like, oh, they like black people in Europe. You've never dealt with the ugliness of the racism.
See, from my experience in Greece, when you saw a black gentleman or a black woman, people treat him like, oh, like you're one of us. You know what I'm saying? He's a very famous basketball player in Greece.
Giannis out of the compo.
Thank you. Great player, great person. You hear him talk, he's very polite and everything. And everybody says to him, like, when he's out and about, nobody sees a difference.
Mm.
One of the
Well,
guys.
that's when you're a celebrity. There's definitely that
Okay,
halo or whatever.
I'll flip it the other way, Paul. Then
Yeah.
when it's rare when you see a black person in Greece. I'll give you that. Can we all agree on that at least?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you do see them, you don't see difference. You're just treating them like normal because that's how we were raised. You know what I'm saying? And like that's the religion part of Greek. because you always treat everybody equally because we're all equal under God's eyes. And I don't want to make this in a religion conversation, but for a minute here, let's be honest here.
Right.
What is the difference between me, you, and Paul? Barely anything. End of the day, under God's eyes.
Mhm.
And we need.
Yeah.
I think we forgot about that. And
Well, I don't think we forgot. You're talking about a 500-year systemically taught way of thinking and believing that we're still trying to undo.
Right.
This is not by accident.
This
So,
is by
and again, a
design.
lot of this stuff started with and it's the crazy thing is all this stuff came out in what's called the Enlightenment period. That's the ironic thing about it, right? You would think these people would be enlightened, but a lot of these things and it happened in the philosophy and it happened in the science and whatnot, and it just became so we're still scrubbing. I mean, you understand. I mean, America just in general is still a relatively new country. I mean, we're still like 60 years post. And again, we're still talking about things. We talked about the show we did on interracial marriage again, 1967. I mean, that's not that long ago where in certain states it was illegal to marry interracially. You know what I mean? So again, these are things we're still in this, and that could be a reason why. And I really want to draw this conversation back because I don't want to just make this about a racial conversation.
yeah,
Right.
The idea here, though, is why someone like myself may feel, again, when I say I'm kind of a fan of cancel culture, or why I don't look at it the same way a lot of other people do, is because of what Black people have certainly had to endure. And to me, the biggest example of cancel culture was the Montgomery bus boycott. Because basically when Rosa Parks got on that bus and she was like, no, I'm not getting up from my seat, Black people mobilized. And we decided, you know what? Bump the bus stations. We're going to create our own transportation network. Really, rideshare, that was one of the first examples of rideshare.
Yep.
Because people would
Before
start
Uber and
paying
Lyft.
you, they would pay you 50 cents for rides or whatnot to get to work or whatnot. They formed their own little network. And that's the thing also, what I love about our people is that when we have been put into a corner or when we've been ostracized, we built our own. And that brought those businesses, those busing companies to their knees. And so I don't mind if you're basically going to tell a segment of the population that you're not valued or you're not wanted. I have no issue with saying, all right, you don't deserve our money then.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, cancel culture or the idea of you shutting down or taking a bit money out, that is voting. That is a vote. We have political voting, but you also have economic voting. And when a company tells you that we don't respect diversity, I don't have to respect you with my dollar.
Exactly.
And this is the thing that really, when it comes to business, let's talk business. I know we talked about a lot of social stuff. Let's talk business. And this is the thing I never understood, that business people talk out both sides of their mouth. The number one rule or priority of business is what?
making money.
Make money.
Profit. You make profit through volume. Why would you implement certain practices or things that are going to inhibit your opportunities to create more volume? And so when it comes to business, a lot of times what happens is you have these guys, especially if you founded a company. I know this happened with, and I've been watching a lot of these videos on what happened to these large companies, like all these multi-billion-dollar companies, what happened to them. There's one guy,
actually.
yeah. So this guy who founded CrossFit.
Mm.
And I guess he was kind of an essential guy, whatever. CrossFit, whether I don't believe in it, but one of it became popular. I mean, most sports orthopedics hated it. You had all these people getting injured from doing all this crazy work. I mean, when I see CrossFit events, I cringe. The way they do chin-ups and pull-ups and stuff, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna get hurt doing that stuff. but it was a way for athletes, especially if you were like a former athlete. It made you think that you were still an athlete. Like it made you think that I still got something to offer. And then the communal environment was such that it created such a community that you wanted to be a part of it, because you had all these people in your CrossFit class cheering you on. And so he created a great business. But unfortunately, what happens with a lot of these people is, yes, you're good in business, and unfortunately, with a lot of business people, you think you're good at everything, or you think you know everything. And he started making some comments about certain groups of people, and he put it out there, and he was unapologetic about it. And it was like, oh, that's how you feel about us? Many of us who patronize your product? Thanks for letting us know. We out. And he messed up a business because he couldn't keep his mouth shut, or he think he was bigger than what he was. And so for me, the number one rule of business is, one, to make profit. The second rule is just like it. Don't mess the bag up.
Yep.
If we're here to make money, if we're here to, be about our business, then you stay on business. I don't need to know what your political views are, what your social views are, what your moral views are. Create a great product that people want to buy, give them good customer service, and you should be straight. I don't care if you're a musician. What's that?
Another example of that, Target.
Yeah.
Target got caught up in that, and I think Chick-fil-A as well. Chick-fil-A got caught up in it because one of the things they were doing, now I don't knock their business setup or anything else, but what happened was they openly came out and said that they were supporting business who didn't support being associated with the pride community. And they caught a lot of flack for that. And I'll be honest, I never had Chick-fil-A before. Before all this, I was looking forward to trying it. When I heard about it, I said, okay, yeah, these guys I'm not going to even try anymore. And it's still to this day. If you come to my house and you bring something from Chick-fil-A, I'm going to have issue with it. Because even though they never publicly apologized, the fact that they did this, I'm not happy about it at all. Because you could have kept your mouth shut. I'm nothing wrong with you.
Another good example is Papa John. He made comments, and after that, his
Yeah,
business did the same.
big time. Again, why would you? Again, black people love pizza.
Everybody
Why-
likes pizza. What are you talking about, Paul?
I'm just saying, but his comments were to us. His comments were to us. He wasn't talking about Greek people. He wasn't talking about Latino people. He was talking about black people. Why would you, again, offend a major consumer block in your business? Target became like the number one outside of Walmart, like the number 2 retailer in the country, in part because black people shopped at Target. One of the things that they also did was they allowed for black entrepreneurs to sell their goods and services in Target, especially in the health and beauty space. They had
Exactly. A lot of
sections
those,
set up in Target for black beauty products. And black people supported Target. And when they said we're no longer doing DEI, I said, wait a minute, you got big because of DEI. But now because we got a president who is against DEI, you decide, okay, no more DEI. And black people was like, oh, wait a minute, you built your business to this level, the number 2 retailer in the country, in part because of us. You don't value us, we're going to show you how much we meant to your business.
yeah, and I never went back to
And they
Target
tanked
since because
because
of
of
that.
that.
And the thing that sucks about that is there were a good number of black entrepreneurs that were getting started that were doing this, and it hurt their bottom line as well.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give you guys a better example, and this isn't only going towards the black culture. It goes all across the board.
Sure.
There are a lot of YouTube creators. I mean, big creators, content creators. That are making comments, and there people are prescribing cancel on a heartbeat. Somebody who had 50, 60, 70 K followers, prescribers, excuse me, now they're going down to only maybe 100 if they're lucky, because people are not dealing with the bullshit anymore.
Yeah.
And when they find out the truth about them behind the camera in their real lives, not what you see right here. Let me say that again. Not what you see right here is what you do every day. I had a privilege to meet Paul multiple times. Paul, am I different on camera in person?
Nope. Same dude. Same dude.
I'm still a pain in the ass. Don't respond to that, please. But
No,
my
it's
point I'm
cool.
trying to get to is we are the people we are. But other content creators, and this is where I take pride of let me rephrase that. I am proud of the content we put out. I am proud of our channel. I am proud of the team we have built, because we are not any different than you see us. You see us in the street, I'm gonna bust your balls like I break this guy's balls and this guy down there. Not any difference. But I'm not gonna be fake like most of these guys, and people are finding out. And that is like some of these couples who are doing Instagram and TikTok. You find out they're the fakest piece of shit you ever seen.
Yeah, it's
That is
creating
true.
content. Yeah, yeah. But again, even in this time, I'll go in another direction, because again, I also don't want to make it about necessarily about. I think that again, if you're a business person, you always want to protect your bag. Now, again, I'll go to the other side. Bud Light. Now, they did a campaign a couple years ago where they featured a trans person in their advertising. Now, beer in general, right? That is a very masculine environment. You see, that's why you see all the beer ads during football games and sporting events and whatnot. That's a very machismo area. They decided they almost went too far. They said, well, we want to, again, in thinking that you're going to get more business by embracing the pride community. And I have nothing against that community. But I'm saying you're risking your bag. If I was in those meetings, I'd be like, look, I understand what you guys are trying to do. You want to be inclusive. I get that. But you're taking a risk if you go in this direction. And that hurt them too. I think their sales dropped by like 25%, and they pulled their ads and everything from it.
Yeah. Another example of a company, another example of a company that, always took a stand on social causes and they never backed down. Nike. When they, supported Colin Kaepernick and what he was doing, why he was taking a knee, a lot of people labeled him as un-American, unpatriotic, so on and so forth. And a lot of people try boycotting Nike. Good luck trying to boycott a company like that was actually founded by a veteran, Bill Bowerman. And at the same time, the thing people forgot, Colin Kaepernick originally was sitting down. The person that encouraged Colin to take a knee and saw that as the perfect neutrality, Nate Boyer, a former Green Beret from the state of Texas, he felt kneeling was a little bit more respectful than spitting. And they still gave Kaepernick a hard time about it.
And you see, that kind of annoys the shit out of me, because kneeling was a respect thing for years. Like, a lot of cultures still kneel when you meet somebody, or bow like the Japanese. So I didn't see that as disrespectful. I saw that as more respectful. Or another player who just stood there and the whole team stayed in the locker room when that happened. Again, that was respectful to me. But when you're sitting down, I feel that's disrespectful to my friends. And you guys know I have lost friends in the service who have passed. And before that, all these men and women who did the ultimate sacrifice. So to me, sitting down wasn't an option. Standing or kneeling, I think, is a lot more respectful, like you said, Anton.
But the thing was, here's the thing that people were asking me, oh, how do you feel? You're not mad at him kneeling? I was like, to be honest, me being in the service gives him the choice to do that. A lot of men and women, people forget, those who wear the uniform give you an opportunity to either agree or disagree. Plain and simple. And honestly, what Kaepernick was kneeling about, it had nothing to do with us veterans. It had nothing to do with the flag. He was bringing attention of all the stuff that was going on because of the behavior of law enforcement and saying they need to be held accountable for their actions. That's why he was kneeling. And people were so focused on the messenger, they missed the message. But I
Yep.
guarantee you, if Tom Brady, if Drew Brees, if insert the name of any white quarterback was doing it, then it would have gotten some. It never would have gotten the pushback as the same as as Colin Kaepernick. Plain and simple. And that's why I always say at the end of the day, you gotta love the double standard.
Keyword double standard. To me, double bullshit, in other words. Because
Yeah.
it shouldn't be like that. It should be cut down across. Like back in the day when you saw the king, you did what? You kneel to your king. I'm not saying you
But
shouldn't kneel to anybody except God, but
I don't bow. I bow to no crown. And there's another reason behind that. But I get what you're saying.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I know it's a whole different conversation. It gets more
Yeah.
technical, but I'm using that as an example. Kneeling is also a respect thing. So to me, like, come on now, like we're going so far to the left or far to the right, and we can't have
Mhm.
this middle conversation.
Yeah.
Like me and Paul DeGrayer, we can have all these conversations. You
Yeah.
go disagree. I don't give a shit. This is our conversation. Like that's why I don't drop the link on Tuesdays anymore. Is because we all everybody who comes on the panel right now is all three of us. We can agree to disagree respectfully,
Yeah.
and that's the problem I
Right.
have with cancel culture and accountability. Is what can you be respectful and have this conversation like we are right now?
Right. And again, that's
Exactly.
not like I said. That's when again goes too far when it becomes about you just want to incinerate. My thing is, do you want to? What can we do from here? A mistake has been made, and again, and like I said, I understand again accountability. But again, when a person though does not want to be accountable, well, then you got the cancel option. The whole idea of restoration or reconciliation is good. Look, how can we make this right? A mistake has been made. How can we make this right? Are you coming with the spirit that wants to make this right? But some of these guys, again, especially some of these guys, when they get money, when they get power and whatnot, they think they're all powerful. And they say, "I'm not apologizing. I'm standing on this or that or whatever." When Hulk Hogan, when he got himself into trouble, like I think Anton said earlier, he just kept denying or going out there. When he endorsed president, and he went to Cali and got booed. You're going to California. If you're gonna do that, do it in Alabama or something where at least is again you have to. And I'm not saying to anyone to do or not do or say or not, or to say or not say. All I'm saying is if you're gonna put yourself out there beyond your product. So if you don't want to be a wrestler anymore, you don't want to be or a football player, or you want to stand on and make a stance about anything, whether I agree with it or not, that may come with some consequences. And it could cost you some things. Muhammad Ali lost 3 years, his prime years as a fighter, because he would not go into the draft. And so he was willing to stand up and say, "Look, I'll take the Muhammad Ali." It's interesting how perspective changes, because at that time he was the most hated fighter in the world. When he fought Joe Frazier in that first fight, 1971, March 8th, it was the biggest sporting event in history. That event stopped wars, literally. The war in England, Craig might be here, but that war between England, Northern Ireland, and all that, they
Troubles.
called it fire because they wanted to watch the fight. That's how big it was.
I
But
didn't know
he
that.
was
I'll be honest,
hated.
I did not know that.
Most people in America rooted for Joe Frazier. The only people who rooted for Ali were black people and other minorities, or the disenfranchised, or the beatniks, or the people who would like the outcasts, or the if you were a protest at Vietnam or something like that, you voted for Ali. But the middle America or the silent majority, they all voted for Frazier, not because they like Frazier. It's because they hated Ali. And just interesting over time, once we found out, yeah, Vietnam was a mistake, now all these people loved Ali. He was like 4 times, especially after he retired. Unfortunately, after he got Parkinson's, he became the most beloved athlete of all time.
Yep.
But in the 60s and the 70s, they hated him. Same thing with Martin Luther King. They hated him too.
Another
And
person,
now it's
another
funny when I
athlete.
hear all these Republicans talking about Martin Luther King. So go ahead, Anta.
No, another athlete that was not afraid to speak out. Well, two athletes, I'll say, Jim Brown and Bill Russell. Both of them were never afraid to speak out against a lot of the social issues. They were not afraid to speak out, put themselves out there. Now, Bill Russell was playing for your beloved Boston Celtics, Paul, and we all know how the city of Boston is.
Well, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
he faced a significant amount of hell.
Got his
to
house
speak
burnt
out.
down. His house was burnt down.
Yeah, like they defecated in his bedroom, in his bed. After his wife was trying to clean up, and they were about to go to sleep, someone literally defecated in their bed.
Ew.
And for a long period of time, he stayed away from Boston because of a lot of the stuff. And it took a lot of convincing from, I don't know if it was Red Albert at the time or someone else within the organization to have him come back to finally get honored for what he accomplished as a member of the Celtics.
Right.
And it took a long time for him to literally let those old dreams die. And you can't
Right.
blame him that way. Same thing with Jim Brown. He was never afraid to speak out about a lot of issues as well.
Right.
And two individuals I forgot to bring up that makes perfect sense. Tommy Smith and John Carlos, the two track runners that ran in the
1968,
68 Olympics.
Mexico City. Yep.
And here's the thing that most people didn't realize. Who was the person that won silver in that race that stood with them on the podium?
Oh, geez. I used to know it. I forget who it was.
A gentleman by the name of Peter Norman from Australia.
Mm.
He wasn't going to do the salute, but he actually wore a pin on his warm-up suit supporting what they were doing. At the time, the Australian government was telling Norman to denounce what Smith and Carlos were doing. He said, no, what they're speaking about is right. They made sure that he caught hell in so many ways. When he ran in the next nationals to try to qualify for the Australian team in 1972, he was kept off.
Yeah.
He couldn't compete. He couldn't make money. They found ways to make things as difficult as possible for him because he chose not to go along with the Australian government to
See,
the
I want to
point
give you
where.
some examples when you're done.
So, perfect example. When Sydney was awarded the Olympics in Sydney in 2000, Peter Norman was never mentioned as a great Australian athlete and everything he's done to contribute to the sport. None whatsoever. He was literally ostracized. But sadly, when he passed away, guess who was there for him even in death? Tommy Smith and John Carlos. And when you look at the picture of his body being brought out the church, Smith and Carlos are the first two faces you see. United in life, united in death. And when you look at that picture of Smith and Carlos, those are the first two faces you see carrying Norman's casket out the church.
Mhm.
And now Norman is getting recognized for his achievements on what he did in sports. And now he's getting recognized for what he did for standing with both Smith and Carlos. Look how long it had to take, sadly, in order for that to happen.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So here's a good example of cancel culture, very well 101. The author of Harry Potter, J.R.
Rolling.
Rowling, she made a comment about the trans community, and she got dropped like a ton of bricks. Doesn't matter if she was right or wrong. I understand that's your opinion. You have freedom to write your opinion. but sometimes you have a business, so you need to keep your mouth shut and keep your opinions to yourself. Can we all agree on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
why even? I mean, like I said, I guess it was a little bit strange. It's like um that's not even late. You don't. It's not like you don't address it. I don't think, does she address the issue in her books or something? I mean, I don't even know how it
I don't
came
know. To
up.
be honest with you,
I don't even know
you
how
should.
it came up. Like, why it became such a controversy from what she was saying.
I
Why
don't
she
know
was
if it
asked,
had
was
to.
it? That's what
I don't know.
honestly, yeah. I never read
I don't,
Harry Potter, so I don't know if it was like a subject in her book or something, or she had a state, But that has nothing to do with the business.
I seen the movies, and nothing in the movies have mentioned about. And I read a couple of the books that mentioned about anything about trans community in it. So for at least the beginning
nah,
of the series.
nah, it didn't. I think what it was also one. I think some people felt like she should have had characters within the community in the book. And ironically, I found this out from my wife. She's a big fan fiction. She's a big fan of fan fiction. There's some people who have taken stories from Harry Potter and did their versions of it where Harry is gay, where Harry is involved with Draco Malfoy and everything else. Like they've taken like all the familiar characters and changed the narratives in their stories. And that's why they're fan fictions, but I'm guessing maybe that could be another reason as well.
And that I can understand somewhat. The second person example I want to give is Mike Lendell. Can pronounce his name. He was the
Mike
CEO
Lindell.
Yeah, the My
of
Pillow
My
guy.
Pillow, and he got canceled because he voted against our current president at the time. I don't think that should have been a factor. He should get canceled for that reason.
Well,
No,
no,
he
no,
didn't get canceled
no.
for that.
I got no problem with that, because not only did he say that he supported the president, which again, I think in business, even if you support something, I think it should be silent. Like, why put it out there that, of your views? How does that help your business?
It doesn't.
But not only did he support the president, but when he lost in 2020, he put all these conspiracy theories out there that the election was stolen. He was constantly putting out stuff that was constantly debunked. So again, a lot of times you think because, yes, he built a successful business, started from the bottom and whatnot. I give him credit for taking the initiative to start a business. But when you get off of the business and you want to be some, statesman, or you think that doing that will help, garner interest or whatever, and people are like, no. But again, just like, Michael Jordan got nailed because he didn't speak out on politics, and I think he had the famous quote, Anton. He said, "Well, Republicans buy sneakers too." Like,
Yeah, I
Michael Jordan
remember that.
intentionally wanted to stay apolitical because he didn't want to, offend anybody. Now he did get some flack for it, but nonetheless, though, Landell could have learned from that.
Yeah.
Democrats, use pillows too, but
Hmm.
no, he went off the deep end. And then when people started saying, "Oh, I'm not buying my pillow anymore," and then he started to complain. The thing that why I also have disdain for people, and why I'm a big fan of cancel culture again. Muhammad Ali got canceled, but he was willing to do so. Colin Kaepernick got canceled, but they stood up and they stood on their square and they defended their position, and they took whatever came to them. They took the heat from it. They didn't cry and complain that they got canceled. Landell whined and complained, "Oh, people trying to cancel me." But you didn't have to open up your mouth. And so again, I have no sympathy for people who you want to say, yes, it's free speech. I should be able to say whatever I want. True. But I have a right to vote with my dollars on where I patronize my what business I patronize. So again, if you want to be equal, if you want fairness, it's a consumer marketplace. People buy and sell, and most buying decisions are emotional ones. So it has nothing to do with whether I like or not. I mean, it can do with a lot of those things. Whether I like you or not, I like your product, I like what you stand for. I may like your product, but if you're using slave labor, for example, I may not rock with your product.
Right.
Because I'm not down with that. And that was the thing with Nike. You talked about Nike earlier, Anton. That was the thing what happened with Nike also. I mean, they had to change some things. Because when it started came out, yeah, you're selling $150 sneakers, using essentially slave labor or these sweatshops with kids making these sneakers. And for a lot of people, they were like, nah, I mean, I don't feel good about that. That's the market. You should do your research on what matters to consumers. And some, it's like, look, I just want my product. But for other people, if you know that that essentially you're contributing to blood money, people be like, nah, that's a bridge too far. And you have to know that as a business person. How can I appeal to the maximum amount of people? Unless you're in one of those niche markets where it's like, you're going to have a limited market. Like if you're in the luxury business, right? You're going to have a very small marketplace. But even then, you still got to appeal to them also. You got to let these guys know that, hey, whatever, if I'm going to be selling Rolexes or Rolls Royces or what have you, then I need to be about, servicing that community. Well, again, if you want to play in the general marketplace, because a lot of times in those luxury communities, everybody's kind of like of the same mindset. You know what I mean? You don't have as many, as much diverse thought if you're dealing with wealthy people. Most wealthy people, a lot of them tend to think the same.
Yep, that is
But
true.
if you're going to play in the gen pop, then yeah, people are going to feel a certain way about certain things. And if you're going to try to appeal to the masses like that, then you're going to have to understand that's going to come with some risks. And so when you're dealing with a very diverse group of people, yeah, you need to be more careful with your language. If it's even in politics, if you're dealing with like all white or whatever, there's a lot of stuff you can get away with saying that, that you can get away with. But if you're talking about a diverse party, and that's why a lot of times the Democratic Party gets itself in trouble sometimes, is because they're trying to appeal to too many people. But you got to ask yourself, we have a diverse coalition. What message is going to appeal to the most amount of people? Let's keep a common theme that everybody can. We're going to disagree, and we're going to have some differences here and different interests and whatnot. But what is the stuff that we can all kind of get on the same page about and roll with that? And then don't get sidetracked trying to deal with something else.
And that's always been their problem.
Yeah, it's complicated. But again, core value, and that's what, general things. Like I may not be all the way over to the left on certain issues. Like I said, it depends with me. It depends on what the issue is. It doesn't make you my enemy though. And that's why I think where cancel culture can get to, cancel culture can get harmful when it embraces the most extreme views. Where it's like, look, if you're not 10 toes down with us, we will cancel you. Again, it's your right certainly to mobilize and do the things that you are. That's why I think it gets harmful. But if you're saying, look, everybody should have opportunity, everyone should have rights, everybody should be able to express themselves. I may not agree with everything that you do or whatever, but hey, generally speaking, I'm not your enemy. Again, in those circumstances, I think more times than not, I think people can get with that. But when it gets to the point where I got to be with everything, it's like, no, like some of these things I'm uncomfortable with. And that's okay. So yeah, so that's where cancel culture gets destructive, when it becomes a zero-sum game.
Yeah,
that's when it gets that's when it's a bridge too far, I think, for a lot of
it gets uglier than it gets uglier than it has to get, and that's also the problem too. And I know we don't like talking politics here, but unfortunately, we're seeing this in politics in so many ways every single time. It's like either you're with us or you're against us. There's no more middle ground, and that's the problem. No one wants to sit there and say, okay, Let's find a solution. Let's find a common ground. And there was a time when politicians were able to do that. Politicians could disagree on everything, on certain things. When there were things that they agree upon, they will find a way to, okay, you know what? Let's find a solution. Let's take something from my side, let's take something from your side, and let's start working towards the middle. Neither side wants to do that anymore. They have this
Think
gang
about it.
mentality.
Think about what you just said. Was the longest shutdown we had recently? It was they could not come in agreement. They would not sit down and have the conversation and come to a middle ground. And eventually they did. But why did it take so long? People to almost lose their jobs over it because they could not come to an agreement.
Pride, plain and simple. And then when you have the person that's in charge that feels this certain way, everybody in that party, in his party, are too busy kowtowing to him. Because God forbid if you do something that he does not like, because he's the perfect example of cancel culture.
Yeah.
If you don't go along with anything he says or does, he will find a way to replace you with zero hesitation. Look what
And
happened
we
in
see it.
Indiana.
Yeah. Oh, look what happened to some of his cabinet members. It's like if he wants 100% loyalty. What you meant one time you split with him and then you're done. I mean, he doesn't want loyalty; it's fealty with him, and that's that's a problem. So it's interesting that a lot of people will talk about cancel culture being bad, but it's only as far as it affects them.
Yep.
They'll be the first ones to cancel somebody over something, but then if you but they want the right to be able to cancel you or whatever and boycott you and things like that also. So again, it all depends on what the issue is. You either rock with something or you don't.
Another
And
example
for
of
those,
this,
yeah,
another example of that, Charlie Kirk. Look what happened to him.
A great example.
You put anything out there on social media about him, you said anything, they were like, report that person. You make sure they get fired. You make sure they lose their credentials and so on and so forth. And I'm thinking like, isn't this the same isn't this the same group that had an issue with cancel culture? And now all of a sudden they're trying to use it to their advantage?
yeah.
Like really, like
If you said anything disparaging about him or whatever, or something that wasn't pleasing, you got fired because of it. But again, what happened when the shoe was on the other foot? So again, for a lot of people, it's again, people use it selfishly. But again, if you're truly about, like I said, that's why I brought up the two examples I had with Bud Light and with Target.
yeah,
Two totally different ideologies or what have you. But I agree with it the same. I said Bud Light, if you're gonna do this, then you're gonna have to understand that there's gonna be a lot of risk in this maneuver. And whatever the fallout's gonna be, the fallout's gonna be, but just be ready for that. But so again, like I said, I'd rather have it than not, but I don't like the idea of people being silenced for what they're saying, but they shouldn't be protected from what they're saying either. Let us know how you really feel about something, but then the chips are gonna fall how they're gonna fall.
yeah.
And I'm good with that.
I think what it is also, it's funny how some people have issue with the quote unquote violent rhetoric, but yet when, for example, the politicians from Minnesota who lost their lives.
The same day or the day before when Charlie Kirk got deleted.
Yeah. Those same politicians in Minnesota who lost their lives. Of course, people came out and said something, but those on the right, all you heard were crickets. But ironically, when Charlie Kirk got deleted, of course, everyone on the right made it seem like, oh my God, we lost this great person. We lost this martyr. And no, he's not a martyr. College dropout who used his mouthpiece and his privilege to push the nonsense that's going on today. But at the same time, he didn't deserve what happened to him either.
Nope, not at all.
See, I agree with some of it because I do agree some of the stuff he said was craziness, but he did say he had a lot of good points too at the same time.
So not wrong.
mixed friends behind that because he had a lot of good points, and some points like you're going a little too crazy there, my man. So, but again, like you guys said, I don't think he should have take that.
No, not at all. And I certainly knew of very few people. Like people were saying, "Oh, all these people," but I didn't know anybody. And you talk about people who vehemently disagreed with him. And I know very few people who had that kind of extreme saying, "Oh, I'm glad he's gone," or whatever it was. I don't know
That's
anybody
fucked
who
up.
said that. But again, people were losing their jobs for saying certain things or whatever. But again, when those Minnesota politicians got deleted, nothing. And it's interesting too because again, when you had certain people who just died recently, Rob Reiner, what the president had words for him or whatever. But again, you say anything about somebody else, it's like he can say anything he wants. But then everybody else is supposed to be on their best behavior. But he's supposed to be the leader of the country. He's supposed to be setting the standard for people, and he doesn't. So yeah. So like I said, for me, generally, I would rather have cancel culture than not. It could be a very effective tool, especially when you organize. And again, if you want to, but I would still say give people an opportunity. Like I said, hey, we made a mistake. Let's make it right. Like I said, I'm good with, letting people, dig themselves out of the hole that they got themselves into. But if people are gonna, constantly keep fighting it, then again, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do in that case? So I'm still team cancel culture. And again, same thing. If you're like an influencer on TikTok or something, or if you're a musician or something, again, you're being paid because of your music. But again, if you want to go out there and get political, I'm like, okay, that's a risk. Now, people may love you for it, or you can lose your audience. All I'm saying to those guys, know what the price is going to be. Be willing to pay the price. Like Ric Flair said, you got to be willing to walk that aisle and pay the price. If as long as you're able to do that, do whatever your conscience says that you do, do it that because you think it's right. And more times than not, I mean, you can live with the decisions. Now, another thing which I also see with a lot of these people, there's also a lot of grift. So what's been happening, especially with a lot of these celebrities, a lot of these folks, they'll say stuff like, to take a position or whatever, but then you see that they don't believe the stuff because they were saying the same thing a minute ago. Like you got a lot of these politicians who hate the president, like Republicans who hate Trump, hate him. But in public, oh, he's the greatest president we ever had. Now, again, whether you believe that or not, the idea here is that, authenticity. Can you really be honest and be willing to have a conversation with people over what you believe? A lot of people can't. And what will get you canceled faster than anything is fakeness. And so, like I said, if that is the direction that you're going in, again, you're left to the dogs to eat you up. And I got no sympathy for people if you're grifting or if you're going to be stubborn. What am I going to say about it? You good, Pete?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking, like, how far do we have to push this envelope till we say enough is enough? Because, like I said, I agree on what you're saying.
What's the enough that you are concerned about? You think? Do you think there's too much cancel culture? Is it the right amount? Is there another way? I mean, where do you stand? I think I've laid my stance out positionally, but where do you think it goes too far, or do you have a case where it went too far? because I don't think no one's mentioned the case tonight to say, hey, that was a bit much. That shouldn't happen to that person. Whatever. I mean,
You said it. His name, Charles, man, who got assassinated. He went. They went too far to cancel him. Think about it. And like it, some people go to extremes on this stuff, bro. But we might not see it in public, but they do go to extremes.
yeah, but well, my only concern that I think obviously whoever did this, I don't even know if the guy who they caught is the guy who did it.
I
But I'm
doubt
not
it.
going to use somebody who's mentally unstable to say that's a sign of cancel culture. I think when you have people who are unhinged, I don't think that's. I mean, I think cancel culture and he said it's a culture, so it's not just one person. It's just not one bad apple out there. I think it's a movement. It's a group think sort of thing where people are trying to eliminate people. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's one run. If you know, think of all the political assassinations that have happened throughout history.
What
Most of
has
these
gone on
people
now
are
lately?
unhinged. Most of these people wrote like a manifesto of some kind. You know what I'm saying? It's
Look,
not.
okay, a good example. Like a lot of people are not a big supporter of our current president, but people have gone to the extremes. And there's been 3 attempts on his life right now. Again,
Yeah,
I don't make this that I feel like that falls under the cancel culture. Some people go to the extremes with this stuff. You see what I'm saying?
I understand the extreme part. Got that. But again, I don't think that's a culture. That I guess that's where I would have a difference. The guy, like, let's look at the 3 attempts. Now, interesting enough, Obama, from what I understand, I was just looking it up. There were 6 attempts on his life, not one that was like came close, like hitting his ear or whatever. I mean, it wasn't that severe. But again, I'm not going to put lone wolves, the guy who deleted Kennedy, or if unless you want to say there's a conspiracy. Now again, I know with that whole Kennedy assassination, people think it was the mob, it was the CIA, there was a covert
There's
operation.
multiple things you were saying. Yeah,
That's a whole ball
different
game. But
can
I'm
of
talking about,
worms.
but a lot of these people are unhinged. Like I said, they right there, or the mass shooters, right? They
Mhm.
write these papers, they write these manifestos. Like the guy who was at the White House dinner a couple weeks ago. Again, the guy wrote a letter, like a manifesto sort of deal.
I didn't know that part.
So again, those are unhinged, but that's not like a movement of people saying, "Hey, that's very different from saying we're not going to see Charlie Kirk, or we're going to boycott, or we're going to do something else." But people, if you're going to take it to that, there's no mass movement that I'm seeing that people say we need to get rid of this guy. Like literally, like 86 this guy. I don't see mass movements like that unless you're talking about the extreme. Now, again, like the militia groups,
Hmm.
the what do you call it? The 3%ers,
Yeah.
like those guys. Now, I would admit those some scary dudes. You show me that documentary, or you send me that link to that documentary on some of those guys.
Hmm.
Those are some scary dudes, because everything about those guys is violence or gun training or whatever, or preparing for whether it be a
The
civil
worst case
war, an
scenario kind
incursion,
of
or
thing.
something like that. Those guys are doing. I don't, but for most of us, like I said, I don't even own a gun. I'm not even a gun owner. Like I said, I'm scared about everyone even to touch guns. And I think most people, especially if you're in the Northeast, most people don't have guns here. New York, New Jersey, you don't see a ton of gun owners here. Unlike PA, not even Pennsylvania, or certainly in the South.
Yeah, because don't forget, New York and New Jersey is one of the toughest states to get a permit to just even own
Right.
a gun.
So, but no one's talking about going in mass. For this solution, let's delete the president. And again, if you look at all the assassinations in history of the U.S. president, you look at all of those. it was generally a lone person. It wasn't like you had this mass group talking about, "Yay, we're glad this happened." And even when it came to the things that happened to our current president, some of that stuff is, first of all, it's unforgivable in terms of like the first guy. How did he get in? You talk about Secret Service. This guy just
Somebody jumped the fucking boat.
gets up on a platform. I mean, who's watching? I mean, somebody fumbled the bag. I mean, big time there. I mean, that's that's like, how was that allowed to happen? So if anything, I blame that more so on failure of leadership, failure of security and whatnot, as far as those type of things that type of things to happen. But even the guy, you and Charlie, I mean, the guy, if they're saying that, when the footage that they showed of the guy, I mean, again, got climbed up a building, got on a roof or whatever, did all this stuff. I mean, that's that's a that's a that's a loner right there. I don't see that being a big conspiracy thing where people in mass are wanting those things to happen. So I think cancel culture is about not just one person. It's people voting in mass. Again, with dollars, we're not going to watch your show, or we're going to protest your show, or we're
Okay,
going to
let me
not
use
buy
this
your
example.
product.
When the whole incident happened in the Capitol, when the president says, like, "There's march down there, let's go," and everybody believed him. Would you consider that as a cancel culture thing?
Yeah, tens
Rile
of
them up.
thousands of people. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's mobile. I'm saying that's mobilization. And again, you can mobilize for good or you can mobilize for bad.
Yeah. And in that case, like that, that's a good example of what I'm trying to say. That's going too far when you're marching down and destroying government property.
Oh yeah, same thing with the BLM protests. I mean, when they were breaking like I said, I get it. You want to protest. I mean, George Floyd or other things with police, but again, destruction of property of people who didn't even do anything to you. I mean, I can't get with that.
Like, I know down the street from me, not literally down the street, but it's the same block I live on. It's a gun shop called Dunkin' Burgers. They were protesting horrible on this poor guy, and I don't agree on his prices. I don't agree on his business practices. That's my personal reason. I don't shop
Mhm.
there, and not because the guy did anything. I think he just does way too much. I
Yeah.
can go to somewhere else and get the same piece for half the fucking price.
Right.
That's the only reason. But the poor guy, they were doing Black Metal Live protests right outside his shop. Man, I don't even imagine how much business he lost after that day.
Yeah.
That guy had nothing to do with this.
Not at all.
That's not fair for him.
Not at all. And that would also be another misuse of cancel culture. Again, it's like, yeah, you want to make a statement, but typically it's targeted towards, again, somebody. It's not just shooting bullets, just random. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and that was the thing that hurt with even in our communities. All those riots in the 60s and 70s, those riots in Watts and whatnot. I mean, a lot of it involved the burning down and destruction of your own community.
Mm-hmm.
And that set us back. I mean, your people were impacted by that. I mean, I get, you have this outrage over things that are going on. You're tired of this is coming off the heels of, like, I think the Kennedy assassination, Martin Luther King got assassinated, Robert Kennedy got assassinated, and just in the urban centers, people just, like, there was like an uprising. People just had, like, it was like the anger was just so overwhelming that people just went into the streets and just did stuff.
Will you consider cancel culture maybe a form of public bullying too?
Public bullying? Not necessarily. I mean, I think that, certainly a lot of the cancel culture is really the small taking on the big, right? I mean, you got big stars, big companies, corporations, and you're just one person.
Mhm.
It's just showing that, I think in cancel culture, it's your ability to impact the situation with numbers. So being Target is a multi-billion-dollar company. that basically thought it was too big for a particular audience or spoke to an audience that basically said, or at least how it was taken, we don't value. I mean, I'm sure, yes, you would still value if we bought from you.
Hmm.
But as far as, again, your commitments to DEI or to support black business or whatnot, again, that was one of the reasons why so many of us shop with you. I could go into a Target and go to a section that had all these entrepreneurs, black entrepreneurs, and being able to sell their products there. It was a very deliberate move that had positive impact on the company. Why would you take that away unless you're grifting for for a current leader? So you hurt your own business because you thought that, or you took for granted us that helped build your business. So if anything, Target, in my view, Target was the bully. But though those getting bullied, just like when we were kids and we were getting bullied, you could take on a bully if you get a few of us nerds to get together, 5 nerds against one bully. You can do that. But yeah, but one-on-one, I mean, what one single individual is going to do to Target? I mean, you can't. I mean, there's not.
See, my issue with cancel culture a little bit is a lot of people don't research the information correctly. Can we agree on that?
Yeah,
And they jump the
strategy.
gun.
Strategy is important.
Yeah.
And again, even having an opportunity to explain. It's like, look, you want to meet with, let's say if I own a store in your community that's full of, let's say, of Greek people, and I say something out of pocket, and some citizens come to me or whatever, I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna I'll come to your church and be like, explain if I was wrong, if I insulted, I was ignorant about something, whatever. I would do a mea culpa on that thing because, again, I did not want to offend your community, especially if I'm genuine about it. So whatever I got to do to make this right, I will do. But if I'm just like, yeah, I said it, so what? Oh, you don't let me get another store or whatever. And guess what? A lot of times you will get another store. Or if you then decide to encourage other people to say, don't buy from me because he said this about us, then I may be thinking, well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't shop with you either. And then you're going to cry and complain, oh, they canceled me. But you made no effort to affect the harm or to address the harm that you caused. But again, like I said earlier, most people are willing to give you a second or multiple chances if you just own your stuff.
I totally agree with you. And we had multiple conversations in private and on air, on the gray area, and on these shows. And we don't agree on everything.
No.
And sometimes during the end of the show, you change my mind, or vice versa. I might change your mind.
For sure.
This goes to my original statement. I do think people jump the gun without knowing the full story. And to me, the question for everybody out there today: do you feel? And I feel this way. I'll be honest with you, Paul. Is social media give people too much power without knowing the right option to go look at the right sources. This was said, this wasn't said, this is done, this is not done, or whatever the case is. I think social media is a good tool, but it could be a bad tool used in the wrong way also.
Yeah. But I would say by now, though, I think that if you are interested in doing anything in that space, if you haven't learned about what not to say or what not to do by now, if you don't have a whole, graveyard of people who got canceled and why they got canceled, then I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? It's
I totally agree with you 100%.
It's like if somebody wants to use the N word inappropriately at this point, in the negative sense, you can't have any word to say, oh, I didn't know. I didn't think that would be offensive to people or whatever. If you don't know by now, I don't know what to tell you. So I think that, yeah, and as far as this whole idea of social media, yeah, I mean, I do that. I mean, I'm an information guy.
Yeah.
I don't just pass stuff on. Someone sends me a link or something. Oh, this person said that or whatever, and I'm in my mind. I'm like, is that true? Is that right? Verifiable sources. This is one of the things that we've talked about before, and we may disagree on this one, but I think one of the worst things that's happened is social media in terms of your consumption of news.
No, I agree 110% of that.
I think that we lost something when you went away from traditional journalism.
I agree 100% of that.
People went to school to learn how to research, fact check, editorial review. Now it's just people getting on air with no sources, nothing to back it up, and just putting stuff out there and people taking it as gospel either because they're cool or because it sounds cool or it's interesting or whatever, but it may not be true. And so I would rather listen to people who are experts in the field. I want a journalist. And that could be from the New York Times or USA Today or any. Now, again, do they get it right all the time? No, they do not.
And my only issue with journalism right now, the way that not what it is, if we didn't have social media, but you also have, again, back to the president, and like, somebody gives them facts, they check them right on air, goes, stop lying. That's fake news, blah, 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 blah. But he's lying to us.
Yeah.
So again, this is where I feel, and this is one of the statements somebody that made to me today when I told him at work we're having this show. All right, and I said to him like, and he said to me, he feels, and I quote, he feels somebody in the media should be should be in a higher standard, and I agree with that because there are in the eye of the public. They need to watch what they say. And he goes, and his response, maybe sometimes they should not even respond and be silent.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad idea either. But if you're being silent for the wrong causes, I think me and you will both have a disagreement with that. Not to each other, to the person. I mean,
Yeah, I got you.
like if you're not making a statement, listen, I was drunk and I fucked up. Okay, cool. Shit happens in life.
Mm-hmm.
Or I was having a bad day, or whatever the case was. I stepped online.
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about this? Because I heard someone say, I think a couple days ago, that they believe that news media should be nonprofit or nonprofit, not in the sense of not making money, but that they should operate. They shouldn't be operating off of a for-profit model. Because the thing is, if you're in it to make profits, you may compromise your principles and sensationalize stuff in order to sell more papers or have more subscribers or what have you, but you're not dedicated to truth telling. Does the profit motive in journalism make better or worse reporters because they may go for the sensational story versus what's real or accurate? What do you think about that?
I think a nonprofit might be a smart idea because they won't be motivated to make money saying it started one way or the other, or try to buy them off. Say, listen, if you say this instead, I can give you a couple grand easily under the table, cash, or a cashier check, so nobody can find out, or wire it to you.
Mm-hmm.
If it was nonprofit, you don't have any motivation now to swing one way or swing the other way.
Well, you might. I mean, we talked about it on the gray area a couple weeks ago. Some of these nonprofits make a lot of money.
Yeah, you got
So it's kind of like, so I don't know, so I'm saying like a different model that's not so based on making money, whether you be a nonprofit or for-profit entity in terms of your business structure. But really the idea is, stop trying to be profit media, like get people who really want to be journalists and really want to tell the truth and tell stories, but we're not be like, okay, we got to sell so many and whatnot, and because again, when you do that, you're talking about, hey, let's sensationalize this a bit, let's get people talking, let's put a big headline on and whatnot, and to get more people to buy into the story, but the story really wasn't that big. That's the only thing I think about in my mind as far as can news media be, first of all, independent and free of, the temptation of either special interests or certain people want to buy them off or buy stories or politicians or political pressure. I almost think that the press should almost be like a fourth branch of government, right?
That's not a bad idea. You just
You know what
said.
I mean? Like the fourth estate. You have your legislative, you have your judicial, and your executive branch, the press. Even though we do have a First Amendment and we have also, the freedom of the press or whatnot, but that they should be able to operate independently of stuff. But again, that's hard because the other three branches, they're not working that way, right? Politicians getting money all the time from
Donator.
businesses and things like that. There's all kinds of special interests and whatnot. So I don't even know that's possible anymore. But I'm just thinking that how can you get media to be independent again to tell the stories? I mean, I grew up watching Walter Cronkite and those guys on NBC News and ABC News and just those reporters. They were about really giving insightful. Even 60 Minutes has been compromised as of late because the president put a big lawsuit on them and whatnot, and certain stories got pulled because the new CEO, I guess, she wanted to be more friendly to the executive branch, and there were certain stories that were shelved because the White House didn't want it shown. And so that kind of leaning on on media, I think is dangerous. Unless, because if this continues, unless you want state run me, and here's another thing, you talk about cancel culture again. When Jimmy Kimmel, whether you like him or not, president was like he was trying to leverage the FCC to get him off the air. Is that a cancel culture move?
You know what's yes, and I'm going to use another example to that. When Trump was kicked off Twitch, if you remember, because of his name, and then his buddy ran and bought Twitch and turned it into X. That's definitely cancel culture at 101. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, it's I mean, those kind of things are. Hey, how you doing, Mariana? But yeah, I mean, those are things that you have to be mindful of. But again, but that's bullying to me. When you're talking about, oh, we'll stick the FCC on you because you said something or whatever. What happened to free speech? What happened to First Amendment? What happened to certain things? So again, the whole cancel thing. Again, it really depends on who's in power, who's in position to use it. You want to use it on other people. You don't want to use it on you. And that's the unbalance of it. But again, I would still rather have it than not. But I want to go to shout out to Braxton being in the chat. If you can show his the comment before last. If you go back and show us his a big one. Yeah. Now this is an interesting case here, right? Because we are definitely living in another world where a lot of these older shows, and I certainly remember, Jeffersons and All in the Family. Yeah, because of their subject matter, there's no way you can show those shows today on TV. It just would not be accepted.
Look what happened to Roseanne.
There was nothing wrong with Roseanne. It was Roseanne what she said. I'm
Yeah, that's
saying
what
the
I'm saying.
shows.
That's what I'm saying. She said something and it got her canceled.
But I'm saying the shows
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying now.
were controversial. You know what I'm saying? Like All in the Family, Archie Bunker and George Jefferson.
Oh,
You couldn't have those guys on TV. You could not. I mean, even though, and it's funny to me because, again, my family loved All in the Family growing up. Archie Bunker was a bigot and all that kind of stuff. He was just an awful person. I mean, they softened him up over time. He got better. He found himself, towards the ends of the show's run where he became a nicer person. But yeah, but it was interesting because back then people laughed at him because he was a bit of a buffoon. And so they thought, yes, this is a bigoted man, but, He never came out winning at the end. So we laughed at him. He wasn't like a threat to us. And so it's interesting that or George Jefferson when he would use derogatory terms about white people or what have you. Again, no way that would be accepted today. But it's definitely a sign of the time. So yeah, so this might also some people may say this is a negative about cancel culture, and that a lot of these shows say what you want about them. A lot of these shows dealt with very serious social issues that got people talking about those issues.
My good example with Smith. So French Prince Bel Air when his
Yeah.
mom was his mom, I believe, or his
No, I think it was
aunt.
his dad. His dad came back into the picture and whatnot, and he left him again. He was like, why my dad keeps leaving me or whatever. Or why do like
What
that?
does he want me?
What's that?
A comment he said towards the end when he broke down.
Yeah.
What does it want me? Well, I was actually going with a different one when his mother or aunt came in and the guy dropped in the suitcase. Oh, pay the taxes. Right? No, that's the boyfriend. Like what? A white dude?
Oh yeah.
That's a good one. Or another one when the kids were borrowing the partner's car and they were behind bars, and he comes storming like, "Yo, you better release his boys because you guys fucked up."
Yeah.
Like they didn't steal the car; they were borrowing it. That was my illegal problem.
Yeah.
Legal partner, and he was about to lose shit. And that's why Phil and Carl Wittelsel are always been my two favorite TV dads because the way they reacted on things.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
time
for
when
sure.
his son got literally spread eagle on the floor because he was in a different neighborhood. He didn't do nothing wrong there.
Mhm.
So, or drinking and all this. I remember when Steve Urkel was drinking, he was on the side of the roof. Was it? I believe something like that. And they were trying to save his ass because he never had alcohol before first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But stuff like that today, snip, you're done.
Yeah. Like I said, it's um, sometimes it has hurt conversation, or at least allowing people to have conversation over certain things. So again, I think that because with the cancel culture, you also get into the area of censorship. Again, certain things be shown or seen, even though it might be uncomfortable, but it gets people talking about it. That's a conversation. I mean, if you're going to say an L for the cancel culture, that would be it. Just not to have it at all. But I understand at least people want to say that look, we should have an environment where people, regardless of who you are, has access to and acceptance in the society. And so no one should feel like an outcast or what have you based on, again, whether it be the programming or whatever is on. And so
Yeah.
people, so that's a that's a conversation. I know Marianne is comment about the president. Yeah, he's been on one as of late. The picture that he had as far as him portraying himself as Jesus. Now he's got his golden statue down in Mar-a-Lago.
The guy's on
You got
a fucking on some kind of weed. And like I swear, to God, he smokes some really good weed. If you're doing all this shit.
so he's on a lot of different things. But again, people aren't the people who complain about cancel culture. They're not trying to cancel him because of the things that he's doing. And so again, that also speaks to a lot of the hypocrisy
I agree.
on both sides of the aisle. When it comes to these things, again, cancel culture is something. As long as you agree with it, you're fine. But like I said, but I think that pendulum swings both ways, and he has his supporters, he has his protectors, who it doesn't matter what he does, he's going to have people defending his points. He doesn't get canceled at all.
Mhm.
So
So
yeah.
we're coming towards the end of the story. We got 5
Yeah.
minutes left. Do you want to do your final thoughts, or that you have said enough tonight?
I think I've said enough. I'll just summarize, and we can just keep it here. You don't have to blow me up or anything. But
Oh, come on! You like me blowing you up?
no, not really.
Pause.
I got these bags, mines. I'm tired. I'm pretty tired too, and
Yeah.
I gotta get
Before you go,
pretty early.
final thoughts. Before I forget, stay on for 5 minutes after the show. We have
Yeah.
to go over something.
Yep. Will do.
Yep. The floor is
Will
yours,
do.
my man.
But yeah, like I said, I think cancel culture, when done right, it is a tool. It could be it could be a strategic tool for advancement. Awesome. Thank you. It can be an awesome tool for advancement, to bring issues to bear and to hold people accountable. And again, if people don't want to be held accountable, or for those who are dug in, then again, you're going to deal with the consequences of your actions, of which, like I said earlier, I have no sympathy for. But again, I do believe in some grace. I do believe that I think a company or entity, a person, an entertainer or something, yeah, if you say something, again, come with some humility and give the public an opportunity to embrace what you're saying. That a lot of times these people, they get out there and they just keep digging and keep digging, keep denying, and then you leave the public with basically no choice.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can't rock with you anymore, because every time someone gives you a chance to come up and say, yeah, you go even harder in that position that's leading you nowhere. So as I said earlier, when you're in a hole, stop digging and take your chances. And I think you would see less cancel culture overall, because again, you understand that, hey, we all make mistakes. We're human beings.
I agree.
So that's what I got. But good
Yeah.
show tonight. I'm glad we had an
Yeah, we
opportunity
had.
to
I
chop
think
it
this
up.
is a good educational show for a lot of people out there. And I know one prescriber said, one comment was in the chat, we need more conversations like these, and I agree with that. We do
For sure.
definitely need more conversations like these. Really fast schedule update for Saturday. We are going to be going over. You're gonna like this one, Paul. Is Batman versus Punishment, Justice or Vengeance? Money training or military training? Which one is a little better? Like, this is gonna be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
We are having a gray area. I believe is online dating this week, right?
Yes. Online dating.
Yeah.
And this Thursday, we're looking to relaunch. I mean, we certainly took off the line, but we may kick off next gen training. If not this Thursday, then definitely by next Thursday. We're kicking off next gen training, a series of shows dealing with anger management. And so hopefully we hope that you guys will certainly tune in for those and invite, people, if you know people who have those kind of issues, especially young people, how to deal with a lot of that. In fact, I'm kind of dealing with some of it now in my household. That I got a lot of females here, and there's they could be an angry situation. So I'm learning some things too. But I think a lot of this stuff where a lot of that comes from is a lot of insecurity about yourself. So again, part of dealing with it, we're going to build this over time over a series of shows, dealing with the idea of self-assessment. How do you get better? How can you kind of know where you are and what your triggers are and why you're acting the way you're acting, or how you're reacting the way you're acting? A lot of times it starts with an examination of self, and it's coming from a place that no one's ever touched or addressed. And so we hope to deal with some of that in the future show. So definitely looking forward to getting back on with Coach and bringing you a series of shows, which I hope you'll find informative, and that will help you if you're that type of person.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And we'll be back Monday. We have a wrestling talk, and then on Tuesday we'll be going privacy versus transparency. How much should we really know? I think there's going to be another interesting conversation. I think these last topics have been pretty interesting. I believe
Yeah, I've been
on the
very
Spartan.
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So, except that, guys, this was the Spartan HQ Network. I am the Spartan, aka Peter, my man, Paul. As always, stay fresh, stay safe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.